Oh, we're live? We're streaming right now? Cool. Awesome, man. Let me just
What is going on, everybody? Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and welcome to the official Pantheon Plus show here, not the intro. Tonight, I am joined by my guild leader. I have to be very nice, guys. If I want any DKP at all here, I need to be careful. I'm already going to lose a lot. But the good news is whenever I lose DKP, people scream at me minus DKP. So to me, that means I just get DKP. So I'm not sure how that'll play out. But Saicred, first time ever on PantheonPlusYou, buddy. Thank you for joining tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited about it, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So tonight's topic we'll jump into in a minute here. I want to make sure to say we do have our poll up on the screen, and anyone can vote. You can also vote Saicred if you want. But you guys will see how to vote. It's actually next to whatever the description of the answer is. You'll see in parentheses, exclamation point, vote, and then a word. So tonight's topic is concerns in Pantheon, right? And I'm going to get into that in a minute. I'll talk a little bit more, but I just listed some of the more popular stuff, and there's also a vote for other. And you guys know how it works. This is all about being able to voice your opinions. That's what PantheonPlusYou is all about. So in the chat, throw it up there. And also jump into the green room. Come on and chat with us. Get on here live and voice some of the things that you want to talk about. I think it's an awesome opportunity to do so. So before we jump real hard in, Saicred, what have you been up to? Anything to share with anybody with, streaming or the guild?
Yeah. So man, I've actually been working. Working is probably the one thing I've been doing more than I care to say. But fortunate to be working, I guess. And really, it's been getting back into streaming a little bit, hanging out with people, enjoying the guild, just trying to enjoy everything I can about what's going on in the world right now, trying to enjoy the people that I know online and stuff like that. So just having a good time, man, hanging out, enjoying the ride, but nothing big, nothing like crazy going on for me right now, just
like you just said, like with everything going on in the world, nothing big, and being able to relax and enjoy yourself. That's like the number one thing in the world right now that I think everybody wants. So you're living the life.
I mean, and that's the thing. It's, I get online at night to play games or to just, hang out and just kind of release and relax. And that's, I hope everyone else in the gaming world can do that as well. I mean, It's rare to say that people are doing that now, it seems.
Yeah. And you hit the nail on the head there, man. I mean, me and you are I don't know how old you are, but I would assume we're pretty close to the same age-ish. And, I remember I'm younger?
I'm younger.
Oh, I was gonna say, okay.
I'm younger.
I didn't think I was younger.
You see this face? No, I'm definitely younger.
All right. Calm down. Already Hoye said, damn, he didn't know you were so pretty. So you're already getting the pretty comments. And I see that the camera angle's already on his guns. We've already had to have this discussion before. I have to sit here and watch. Oh boy, here we go. So he's gonna work out toward the stream. I'll go over there. How many? That's only a 10. I have a 25 right here. Let's do it.
Oh no, this is my big weight. Sorry.
But so anyway, yeah, man, it's back when we started gaming, and I think a lot of people are our age in the community, and if you're not, no big deal. But when we started gaming, it wasn't about being cool, right? It wasn't about like being an e-sporter. It was about like being a nerd and finding the 5 other people that wanted to game with you, and that was your link, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
So it's funny. It's to be able to sit back and game and let the gaming world take you away like it's supposed to is an awesome welcome thing for sure. So before we jump in here, Saicred, you have a Discord as well that's open to like streamers and stuff. You've been pushing them a little bit, which is pretty cool in your own content, right?
Yeah.
Friends and family type of thing.
But also, and that's the thing. Yeah. I think for a lot of people out there that have a lot of Discords and stuff, I hate having too many of them, so I never push it too hard. But it's hard sometimes to find a Discord that you have all of your friends in. So I do want to give kudos to Pantheon Plus. If y'all aren't in it right now, y'all need to go be a part of it, because pretty much everybody that I know and is involved in the Pantheon community that is outside of our guild directly, they're there. So hanging out, having a good time on a normal basis. So y'all check that out. It's it's a real cool place to be at, in my opinion.
We're very fortunate because the other thing too is I think with the exception of like 2 people who went off the rocker, we've for the last year and a half, the Discord's been really, it's welcoming. Like people have different opinions. It's not like all praise, but it's people are actually able to have conversations. And we were talking about the state of everything, and that seems to be difficult. So it's really nice to have a community. And I thank all you guys. It's not me. Everybody who's part of the Pantheon Plus community, just being able to chat and talk and share stories and joke it gets me through the day. So thank you guys for that. So let's talk about what tonight's all about. I know that people may have seen the splash for the YouTube and said, "Uh-oh, Minus is." I even had a few people message me trying to do the controversial show. It's not what the point of it is, guys. You guys know me. If you've watched this show before, you know how big of a fan of Pantheon I am. But I think anything that we love in life, we want to make sure that, we have concerns, we question things, and we want to be concerned for the future. Like we want to be able to try to predict what can get in the way. And that's what really tonight's about here. And I'm super excited to have Saicred here with me because Saicred, well, first of all, this show is supposed to be an hour and a half. Saicred, what's the shortest on mic conversation we've ever had prior to this? 3 hours, maybe. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't count, and it's on purpose. So,
oh my gosh, I can't even tell you guys how many times I'm like, all right, guys, I'm going to bed, and Saicred jumps in, and I'm like, oh no, 4 a.m. rolls around, and we're chatting about limited action bars or Transmog, which we might get into a little bit tonight, which should be fun. So here's how the show is going to work tonight. I have some things I want to go through. I'm going to kind of present some of my concerns here. Chat, we're going to read your guys' concerns, and also please jump into the green room if you want to be on the show. You can mute it until we're ready to bring guests on, but we'll definitely get to the green room as long as we have people in there. If not, trust me and Saicred can talk, so there will be no concerns there. But we want to hear from you guys. That's the point. So why am I doing an episode of concerns? Because I just want to show people that it's a realistic view. We do all have concerns. And at the end of the day, we're going to all have things we don't like about Pantheon. And I think we need to set the right expectations for that. Because any game we've loved, I think that we can look at and say there's things we would change and not like. So that's kind of what it is. It's like set yourself up to understand there's things you aren't going to like. So let's go ahead and jump into my number one. What I'm going to do is I'll talk about it a little bit, Saicred. You can jump in right over top of me if you want to make fun of me or jump in on a point. But what I'll do is after each point, I'll give you a chance to talk and I will read some of the chat. So chat, you guys can go along with me here. And again, don't forget to vote. If you just came in, you'll see how to vote next to the poll on the right side of the screen. The poll says, what are your main concerns for Pantheon? Is it open world? And it'll show you right next to the open world exclamation point, vote open to vote for that. And you'll see that trend all the way down. Is it PvP? Is it limited action set? Is it corpse runs? Is it population? Or is it something else? And if it's something else, throw it in there so we can read it. Okay, so point number one, you ready? You ready to go?
Let's go. Let's do it.
All right. There's a common trend I've seen in our community, and I love our community, but this one drives me crazy. And Saicred, we have talked about this ad nauseum, and if you know me, we've probably talked about this. There is this thing going on in our community for every single thing people don't like, they want to toggle. Saicred, I can't handle this. Saicred, I want to lose my mind on the toggle. So what am I talking? I'll give you an example. I'm trying real hard to not get into a Transmog conversation, but it is the one that I can explain. So what is this toggle thing? Like the whole community is like, oh, well, if they have pets in, I'm fine with pets as long as there's a toggle for me to turn it off. Or if they have Transmog, well, it's fine, but I want to turn it off. I hate this whole thing, man. I hate it. Like if you have a feature in the game and you're going to put something into it, like pets, and I'm going to go earn a pet, your ass has to look at my pet. I don't care. I can't stand this toggle thing. And I get it. I understand that people, in a lot of the arguments, I don't even get. Like, so for Saicred,
yep.
Do you agree with me on this? Are you against this? What are your thoughts before we go in deeper on it?
So I will say, I go back and forth on this fence a little bit. And I see some of the benefits of it to the point that some people are saying in chat, there's kind of this pro and con to it a little bit, where some people get what they want with the toggle system and some people don't have to deal with it. All right, fine. But I'm kind of in the boat with you in a lot of cases, in that if there's a need for a toggle of it, then why is it there in the first place? Yep. I guess the big question for me is, and I went back and did a lot of searching on different MMOs, and I know me and you both played WoW a lot. Mm-hmm. So I went back to, WoW, and other MMOs do this as well. And I found it interesting that there's always been this small toggle for cosmetics in most MMOs that I just really overlook a lot of times, which is for your hat and your cloak.
And I don't know. Yeah. It's always, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why, but that's just like kind of a default. I don't know why that happens, but I never thought about it in the past. And then we started talking about this and having a conversation about it. And I was like, well, hold on, that toggle isn't game breaking, right? It's not changing anybody's opinion on anything that's happening. It's just either you can see a helmet or you can't, or you can see a cloak or you can't. I've just always been curious. Now that we've started having this conversation, I've started to be curious about what is actually toggled on and off in games that we just don't even think about anymore, because it's kind of the norm. It's the natural order of things. And how far could they take that without people really even paying attention to it? To your point, if they took the entire Transmog system and made it to where you toggle it on and off, I mean, that's a night and day picture.
Yeah.
But if it's a little piece here, a little piece there, I mean, how much of it do you really notice or care? And if you don't notice, how much does it affect you? So I don't know. I go back and forth on it. I think overall,
it's interesting, because your point is a good one with the cloak and the helmet, but that's controlled by the player. That's like my character, right? So like if I want you to see my character without a helmet, then I have the right to be able to do that, and that's how you're going to see it. Whether you toggle, a cloak or a headpiece doesn't matter. That'll just affect how you're seen. And I think that's what bothers me, is if you're going to put this huge system into place. Transmog's a big system. That's not easy to do, right? And I was trying so hard not to get into a Transmog debate. I was just trying to keep it on toggle. But if you're going to make these systems, if you're going to have pets, if you're going to have toggles, like, don't make the system. And like, I'm a huge Transmog fan, absolutely huge Transmog fan. But if you're going to let somebody else toggle my Transmog off, then just don't have it. I just like, why should I invest time in how my character looks if you can see me how you want? And I just, so it's not even a conversation about the toggle or about Transmog. It's about like, why are you going to waste time in shutting things off, I guess?
So I guess what I look at when I see toggles is, I think your point's fair though. If me as a player, if I can change the way that the world looks around me, different from the way that others look or others see the world, it does raise some questions, but it also, you can get really into the weeds with this. I mean, technically I can toggle the grass on or off in most MMOs.
Yeah, for graphics.
Nobody cares. Right. I mean, you have graphical pieces where people are, taking the shadows down or up, or they're taking the quality up or down. I mean, they're changing the way the game looks compared to what you're seeing. So when you put on a cosmetic gear, it may look wicked because you may have all this shadow and depth in the gear, and it may have all these colors and variants. And then on their screen, they may flip on colorblind mode and take all the shadows off and make it, look like it's in 480p, and it looks completely different from what you're saying. Now, I do agree with you. You have put investment into making it look that way, so they would see some of that characteristics. But it's a balancing act. I mean, it really is. With any toggle that you put in the game, there has to be a good reason for it, and it has to be so that, in my opinion, every player just feels like, regardless of whether they had, a shadow on or off, they still feel like they're playing the same game. They still feel like they're getting the same experience as everybody else. And,
I agree.
But
Bronson brought up the fact of like toggles and options are a little different. So I'd have to disagree a little bit, but I get what you're saying. Your point's well taken. And we had, let me see here. We had somebody say, and I want to make sure I give them credit here. Somebody said, they don't want to see like bunny outfits and stuff. See, here's the problem. That's all, me, right? We've had this conversation. People always jump to the absolute extreme. Saicred, right now, me and you both, on record, do we think that Pantheon is going to give us a bunny costume?
I mean,
think the developers are going to make it?
I would say they won't allow you to, but I know if they had it, you would wear it. So, there's that. We want to put that on record and make sure that's documented.
No, but the funny part is like, right. So like we always go to these extremes. Like I want to toggle off Transmog because I don't want to see bunnies running around. But this game has already said that they're going to have females that are more representative of real females. They're not going to have this sexy, glamorous gear. It's going to be real gear. It's going to be functional gear. Like the game is being based around the fact that they want some reality in it. So we're not going to see a bunny maid outfit in Pantheon. So I get that people are like, oh, they immediately, do you ever realize that when people try to talk about an MMO, it's for some reason, as soon as they want to hate everything, they go to Korean MMOs. It's always right to the Korean MMO. Oh, well, I don't want bunny outfits and I don't want to have to go to a cash shop and buy this. It's always that. And I get it, guys. Listen, I don't expect everybody to agree.
Costume?
Yeah, I definitely don't want an ogre in a fairy costume. Basgrim had a good point. He said Brad was a big champion of toggle, which is probably why it's more popular in this community. The one thing you had brought it up and someone had said it right off the bat. And I think as soon as you started talking about it, Saicred, you said, it kind of does it get everybody sort of appeased, right? Like it helps everybody kind of. Well, here's the thing. Raise your hand in chat if one of the things that you've said have killed MMOs is everybody getting everything they want. So I'm raising mine right now. So
I second that. And to the point of a lot of people out there, it looks like even though you tried to avoid the transmog conversation, a lot of the toggle pieces of this conversation
seem
point
to be
directly back to it. Yeah. And I get it. It's a huge system. It has major impacts on the game as a whole. I think that to your point, it's hard to break away when you talk about toggles from transmog, just because in Pantheon, that's one of the biggest toggle pieces that's been mentioned in the FAQ and such.
And they brought up pets. Like if you go earn a cool pet, like why should someone turn it off? I mean, I get it. So someone says
maybe that's a performance thing as well.
I've heard that, but really?
I'm not saying that.
Have you ever been in? Yeah. No, but again, that's one of those jumps, right? Like, I remember back in EQ when I was on my 56K ×2 modem and I had to look at the ground to get through EverQuest. That doesn't happen in WoW. That doesn't happen in games that are optimized. One thing, the way games are developed right now, being able to toggle from a lower performance to a higher performance is very easy. The scalability is a lot easier. Rhodium's actually said a couple things here. Let me read what he said. I think he's in support. I am super in support of Transmog, if anybody doesn't know that. I don't think Transmog ruins immersion at all, but there was a point made by somebody that if everything's toggleable and you can change the world, what does that do to immersion? I think that's a good point. Like if you see me different than I look, that's a problem for me. Like if Minus has a certain look about him and he's walking around town and, oh, there's Minus, let's kill him. He's an asshole. Like that's me.
But is it a problem to me?
It doesn't matter though, because I think we all should own a part of our character. I think that it's a role-playing game, right? It's called a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. Or we don't want to take anybody's ability to play their character and be their character how they should be. That's my thing. So somehow number one got to Transmog. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. Saicred, I'm sorry. How many hours have we spent?
I won't dive into it. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll have a whole nother discussion on that. But yeah, I do think that is a sticky conversation when it comes to toggles as a whole. There's a lot of if and buts around it. If you talked about a toggle for just the transmog system, then we could really go into detail with it. If you talked about it just for pets, we could really go into detail with it.
Yeah, it kind of lives within its own era, right?
It really does. I think it does, yeah.
I think the biggest thing I'm trying to say is like, that shouldn't be the solution for everything. We can't just have 7,000 toggles so you can toggle on and off what you want in the game. And Rhodium again just said the thought that a player can see the world differently than how I see it, it just feels like immersion is lowered. And I think that's a good point. And I'm not someone who, if you listen to the rewind, one of my trigger words is immersion, but he's right. I'm going to give him that one. So, all right. You ready for number 2?
Let's hit number 2.
All right. Nothing else to say on toggles. Are we all good on toggles, chat? Anybody else want to yell about toggles? That's great here. It says, Cleanser says, let everyone eat cake, just no flying mounts. Don't worry. Joppa said that won't happen. Hypercrush says we're good on toggles. Number 2. All right. This is going to get me in trouble. And I'm going to tell you right now, on a side note, Saicred, let's be real. The people who want to toggle transmog, it's these people more than anybody. Am I wrong? PvP. Because a PvPer wants to see somebody and know their gear. Is that right? Because a PvEer doesn't care as much. Maybe if they're pugging or something like that. But a PvPer wants to see like someone running at him with the crazy flaming sword of death. You're like, I'm running away because I'm not fighting that guy, right?
Yes and yes. I'll tell you, I was an avid PvPer in World of Warcraft just because I lost interest in a lot of the PvE aspect of it for a while. But I can tell you from a PvP standpoint, I mean, I love PvP. I love first-person shooters. I love the battle royales. I love, getting into MMOs and playing the PvP aspect of it. I will say in an MMO, I do think there's a very big difference in PvP between MMOs. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail maybe. Yeah. But for me, I love seeing what other people are wearing just for that simple fact. I want to know what everyone, not only in my group, but who I'm facing, my opponents, what they have, what they're bringing to the table. And that's a big aspect of a game in a lot of ways. I mean, especially when
especially when things are more balanced, right? If things are more balanced, then knowing those little details is important. So my number 2 topic isn't transmog and PvP. It's PvP. And if you've watched some of my older stuff, I haven't talked about PvP in a live stream in a long time. Actually, I think the last time we talked about PvP was in a video where we had Def and Nathan on with me and Haya. This was a long time ago that I talked about PvP. And it's not a surprise for me to say this, but I really think that PvP is a big concern for me. And let me explain this, because I don't have to PvP, right? I can, the equivalent of toggle, I can go to a PvE server, right? But hear me out, please. This game is being designed, and I think we can all agree, as a PvE game, right? It is a PvE game, 110%, and there's going to be the ability to PvP right now, as far as we know, with a server that just kind of toggles on a world PvP. That's the extent right now. I'm also aware that Joppa is a fan. He likes PvP. Kilson likes PvP. There's a lot of people at VR that are fans of PvP, right? The problem I have is this. I understand that Pantheon will attract more people at the start if there is PvP. I totally get that, right? It's going to bring a different crowd in. I totally understand that. I'm perfect with that. It's okay. However, those people are not going to stay if PvP isn't a main focus, it's not balanced, and it doesn't work the way they want it to work. Because there's too many games out there that do it well enough that if it's just on and that's it, it is going to be a massive detriment, in my opinion, to Pantheon. And here's why. PvPers will not be quiet. They will be super loud about their balance issues, about why is a paladin better than a dire lord in PvP and this and that. And like, oh, we're all going to play this now. This class sucks. That comes a ton from PvP. And the problem I have is those people are going to leave if Pantheon doesn't make a really big thing here to say, we're going to focus on PvP. It can't just be on. It just can't be turned on because there's going to be imbalance. And if they're going to balance PvP, it's going to take away from PvE. I don't care what anybody says at all. Like, prove me wrong, and I'll give you $100. But if someone is working on balancing PvP, it's going to affect PvE. It has in WoW. No matter how many times they've separated skills or separated gear, it still affects both sides. So my problem is, if Pantheon is going to say, we're just going to open it up, it's just going to be on PvP, and that's our main focus on what that's going to look like, I think it's going to cause more damage than good. So I'll turn it over to you. I know you're ready to go, Saicred.
Yeah, I was letting you get your words in here because I'm trying to hold back. I see Bronson over there saying PvPers are crybabies. So duel me, bro. Let's go. 1v1 right now. No, but what it comes down to is PvP in MMOs. Hoya actually said this. I completely agree. Hoya, I don't believe any MMO has done PvP justice in an MMO ever. And there's a lot of reasons I say that. PvP is broken into two major categories for myself. There's the opportunist PvP, which is your open world PvP, which is just, I'm a higher level, I got better gear, the odds are stacked in my favor, I'm going to take advantage of this, and I'm going to take you down. Like, that's just turning a flag on and letting people go at it whenever they want to go at it. Like, that's just an opportunity waiting for people to have, like, that. If I walk up to somebody and I'm not higher level than them, I don't have the gear to defeat them, I'm not going to take that opportunity. I'm going to get out of the way so they don't turn around and take the opportunity on me when they, have the moment. But if I see that they're, over there in a group, they're facing a few mobs, I walk up and they're already low health. Hey, I'm going to take that opportunity, 9 times out of 10. Like, that's the mentality in my mind of a lot of PvPers in open world settings. I don't like open world PvP myself. I think it's just a risk that people like taking in a game, and that's fine. If people like that, absolutely fine, no problem. But to your point, it does have this huge balancing issue. And I hear it all the time. Most of your old school PvPers are like, yeah, just turn a PvP server on, activate it, make flags so that I can attack people, not just NPCs.
I think it's all the rogues. I think it's all the rogues.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like you walk into those PvP servers and it's like 90% of like 2 or 3 classes, because in an open world setting, they are dominant. It's not a fair fight. It's not a, 1v1 controlled environment. And that's the other side of PvP that never, in my opinion, even with as much success as games like World of Warcraft have had in like their arena settings and stuff like that, I've never seen a game do true PvP where it's truly a test of skill and execution of what you know and how you can play your class against another person. Yeah. That to me is a true PvP experience.
Well, you know what it is, and this is my thing, and this is why I just have never got, like, I'll play sports games and I'll play fighting games and I used to play shooters. I'm horrible at them now, but like I'll play competitive games. I never understood like why MMORPGs needed it. And listen, I've done it. Like I did it in Blade and Soul, and that game's great. It plays more like a fighting game is probably why I like it. But that game was great, and I played it because I was playing an OP class. I was the rogue, right? I wasn't a rogue, but you get my point. Like, I get and I understand it, but I think that like when you go back to the core of what an MMORPG is supposed to be, it's about teamwork. It's about that D&D experience. It's about the tabletop, right? And that's what made EverQuest so great. And then when we went away from it, a lot of people say like a lot of what's changed the MMO genre has been like the conveniences. And I disagree. I think a lot of it's been like the esport, the competitive side taking away from the teamwork side. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
No, and that's actually what I was getting at with the World of Warcraft scene. Like even in World of Warcraft, if you look at their arena system in game, they have this mixture of gear, stats, all these different things that throw each match off. And again, I've seen so many of these things done in other games, and I get it. Like there's a lot of games that do PvP, but in my mind, a PvP is a chess game, if you will. I know all the pieces. If you come in with a class, I know what gear you have available to you. I know what I can expect from your ability sets. It's now a point of execution. Can I execute my abilities and what I plan to do to perfection so that I can overcome whatever you can throw at me? Can I predict that? And that to me is a true test of skill. And when it comes to players, most MMOs, it's not a test of skill. Skill is involved in it, and your higher skilled players can maybe overcome some of those deficits. But there's always this issue of, I didn't spend 12 hours today grinding out this piece of gear, so I'm walking in at a disadvantage to this player. Or
it's interesting because like, what's the game? And someone in chat's gonna know, what's the game that put out a battle royale because they were in the middle of making it and they
Ashes.
Is it Ashes that did that?
It is.
Oh, well, at least if you're gonna do that, that whole game is based around being a battle royale, right? So like that's the thing. Like there is so much that goes into making a PvE MMORPG. Like if you want a good PvP game, that's not the way to start making a good PvP game, I think is my thing. Like if WoW wanted to make a separate game altogether, like Warcraft War, like World at War or something, I don't know, I'm speaking. And that game was basically built for PvP with an MMO feel. It's probably gonna end up feeling a little bit more like a a MOBA, because that seems to be like, in my opinion, I feel like the PvP genre within MMORPGs and a combination of RTS spawned MOBA. And that makes sense to me. Like, I don't play MOBAs, but I feel like the MOBAs are the reason, like that's what that came from. Maybe I'm crazy, but I mean, I know it was made after StarCraft, but I think that the influence as well of like WoW's PvP was in there too. My thing is, like I said, I just think that I'm afraid that if you're not committed to PvP, it's going to be a detriment.
Yeah. So the last thing I'll say, so I talked about the open world, the opportunist PvP, the controlled setting PvP is the flip side of that. And like I said before, I've never seen an MMO do that well. The only thing I'll mention about that lastly is the reason I bring up WoW is because WoW does do the esports scene with their PvP. And it's funny, if you go into the game and play the PvP system they have in the game, then you'll see that it's very different from those esport events, because the esport events, the players get to then choose the gear, they get to choose the race, they get to set up everything exactly at the optimal build. So it truly is an execution of skill. When they're playing actually in the game, mind you, they don't have a lot of those pieces of gear. They don't have a lot of those abilities to them because they're the wrong race or the wrong class. Like, and again, that to me is where the difference of a controlled PvP setting, where it's true execution and skill that overcomes your opponent, that's never been done in an MMO, because you can't do it if you have progression of gear and things like that involved in it. If you have levels involved in it, you have to have it completely separate. To your point, like if WoW took their PvP setting and completely stripped it from the game and made it its own entity completely, like a Street Fighter, if you will, where they can pick their own gear, their own abilities, and their own whatever, and go into a combat with somebody, that's one thing. But in an MMO, I've just never seen. I love PvP, mind you. You all think that I'm talking bad about PvP, but I played PvP nonstop for years. But I absolutely love it. But I've just never seen it done to the actual extent it needs to go to when you're talking about a true PvP experience, in my opinion. So that's just where I get on PvP. I don't really care for the open world PvP style. I know a lot of people love that, but I'm with you. I think if you turn it on, as soon as you turn it on, you start hearing the voices chime up to say, oh, hey, this class way too strong in open world PvP.
Yep. And that's like, how it starts. And you know what's funny? And I'm not trying to knock on VR, because this is just what I see. It's so weird to me that every MMORPG I've ever played, when a class is OP, instead of bringing the other classes up to it, they just nerf the OP class, and then it's awful. And then everyone who played that class now who was OP goes and makes another character because their class is ruined and you ruin the game. Because for some reason, balancing never involves bringing the other classes up. It just means cutting down the one that's big. And I get it. It's easier. But let me read a couple things in chat, because this is a pretty fiery topic. And guys, let me be clear too. I don't like PvP. I've not played much PvP because I don't like it. And I'm also not good. So I'm totally admitting that. In Blade and Soul, I was really good because my class was OP and broken. That was it. And in WoW, I played PvP for an item I needed. That was the best in slot for an offhand for a rogue. And that was the worst experience of my life in MMORPGs, having to PvP to get the best in slot offhand. Ugh. But with what people are saying here, Bronson did say, he loves PvP, and Joppa said he likes it, so it'll get some love, maybe. And I'm not saying Joppa can't do it. I'm just saying, is it worth it? Old Wargoat, thank you for the sub, buddy. I appreciate it. Sorry for the late call out there. Let's see here. We have a couple people actually said good point minus. That's a first ever. Schlocky had a great point here. I actually really like this. Let me read this one. He said that MMORPGs are designed to be competitive. Aren't designed to be competitive. Sorry. Sure, you can make areas to be competitive in, but they are best restricted to side activities. Otherwise, if you have a system where PvP is always on, it can harm player interactions when grouping, and other players will see other players as opponents instead of fellow adventurers. So there's some of that I definitely agree with. Like, if you're going to have PvP in an MMORPG, it should be group versus group trying to compete for the world. That I'm okay with. Like, I'm totally okay with like my group versus your group trying to get through this area. That I call that PvEVP. I just came up with that. Does that work? Is that a toggle? Is that like I'm not a PvPer, but I want to toggle PvP on? I don't think that's a toggle for this camp. I don't think so. But Jen Foxy, thank you for the sub there. Zorflo says balancing a class system against NPCs in a PvE environment is a much different thing compared to balancing people against each other. Yes, so different. And that's where I say that PvP sometimes upsets the realm of PvE, right? Because like you're balanced for these fights, and I don't care what anybody says, you always somehow get affected by a decision. Even if you don't see it in a patch note where it's like, we nerfed rogues by this, it's probably in a future thing where like we gave rogues this ability and we wanted it to be this, but we didn't because balancing it for PvP would have been a nightmare. And that's the stuff that people don't realize. It's stuff you don't see that's balanced because this is a part of the game. Anyway, I'll get off PvP. I can do a whole show on that. Next. You ready? Or do you have anything? You have something else? I see you.
I was gonna say, I caught a comment there where it's interesting to me. I always find this very interesting. People talk about how MMOs and things I heard aren't competitive, but yet then we switch gears and we talk about how PvE players are competing over content, and that's fine. It's very interesting to me. It seems like a very interesting mindset that both PvP players share and PvE players share when it comes to competition. I think
you know what it is. You know what it is,
but it's the same.
It's because so I'll tell you one PvP thing I liked. AV. Why do you think I liked? AV. Why did you like AV?
Because to your point, there was a lot of PvE aspects in it. It was a group coming together, and they were overcoming objects and obstacles to defeat the other opponents on the other side. Yep. It wasn't just a straight battle on battle. There was a lot of different things happening. Yep. And I don't know if you played the early days of Arch. I never can say the word anyways, but AV. Yeah.
Valley. Yeah. Yep.
But anyways, so I don't know if you played in the early days, but I remember very clearly, you would basically like hold a line at a choke point, and you would have, the one versus the other there holding the line while
for 24 hours.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You'd have that turtle for like 24 hours though.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh.
But again, that's one thing. But then you would have like a group of rogues that would sneak off with a druid or something and go do like objectives to overcome them. Or you would have a group that's farming rams in the back and pulling together scraps to turn in so they could like summon these monsters that would then go in and break the front lines, and they would use these as these kind of barriers to just break down and push forward. So I think that again, there's a big difference with different types of PvP. You can't just say I don't like PvP as a whole, because I think there's opportunity for good PvP. It just, to the point of everyone here, it has to be designed and it has to be thought through, and there has to be
ground up. It can't be added. It can't be added. Really good quote here to end this topic on PvP from Gary Gygax. I don't know who he is. I'm sorry if I just lost credibility for that. But Thorndeep said, the quote from this guy is, he's probably a D&D guy that I should know. The essence of a role-playing game is that it is a group cooperative experience. There's no winning or losing, but rather the value is in the experience of imagining yourself as a character in whatever genre you're involved in. Whether it's a fantasy game, the Wild West, Secret Agents, or whatever else. You get to sort of vicariously experience those things. D&D, yeah. The guy who made D&D. I told you it was probably a D&D guy. Give me some credit. All right, so let's move forward.
Yeah, the chat is ripping you right now. I'm loving it. Keep going.
Yeah. Okay, so number 3. So hear me out before I finish this one, because I'm not totally against it, but I'm against not really innovating it. Corpse runs. Okay, so corpse runs, if they do it the way that it was in EQ, it's a mistake. It's an absolute mistake. It's not going to work. It's not going to work anymore. There's too many things that Jaffa just said, did somebody say PvP? So if they do corpse runs exactly like it was in EQ, it's not going to work. So here's some of the things I'd say. We don't know what it's going to look like here, so let's be very clear. However, in a lot of streams we've seen, in which this could just be for testing, a death results in a naked respawn. I have very fond and very frustrating memories of a system like this. And while it's a concern, please don't misinterpret, as I said, that I don't want a corpse run system. I'm just not sure how to merge that old school philosophy with like a modernized, smart way to do it. And I don't mean every time, guys, when I say modern, don't just say, oh, modern RPGs. No, modern is actually a word in the dictionary. It means today. Okay. So it's not just linked to MMORPGs. But modernizing the corpse run is important. So like think about, like, a lot of us are hardcore. A lot of us played EQ. The game won't survive on only EQ fans. We need other people to experience Pantheon and be into it. It has to happen, because if the game doesn't have players, we can't play. Like, keep that in mind. That's important. But the thing here is like, I think that you have to be smart with some of the things in Corpse Run. So the one thing is like, where do you respawn? Right? So I'm totally cool with a naked corpse run, but you shouldn't respawn 7 years away. Like, there should probably be smart respawn points. That's still going to make it hard as hell. Because let's keep something in mind. Pantheon is going to be extremely hard. Okay, I'm not complaining about that. That's not on my list. If Pantheon is so hard that you're going to die all the time, how the hell are you going to get your corpse back if you're naked all the time? Like, that's a big deal. Like, if this game is going to be as hard as it should be, being naked trying to get your corpse is going to be miserable. So there's a couple things. One, don't make the run back as long. Have points nearby so that at least your travel time isn't the problem. It's finding people to help you. That's cool. Number two, so this is way over the top. I said this a long time ago, and I really like this idea, and no one's ever going to implement it. It's too crazy, I'm sure. But what if you could sacrifice gear to have a set of gear that was like your spirit gear? So like, it gets it out of the economy, which is really important in a system where you can no drop. You take like an old sword that you loved and you sacrifice it into spirit gear, and you have like a setting of gear that you can sack into there, and you have. So when you die, you respawn with this older set of gear that you sacrifice, that you can constantly sacrifice over if you want. It's not going to be your best gear. It's going to be an older gear. And then it's on a time limit. So for an hour when you respawn, you have that gear. You can't like just run around with it. But that helps you at least try to have something to get back, which you're probably still going to need people, because that gear is not going to be your best gear. And it's also not going to be gear that you want to sell for a bunch of money. So it's really going to be like this difficult concept of, what do I want to do with this gear? It's like building this spirit set that is your respawn set when you die. And you can even nerf it down a little bit. But I do worry that if VR doesn't revolutionize the corpse run and it's just like it was before, I don't know that that's going to be as good, because I think, and I've seen some people saying we just want an easy game. I don't want an easy game, guys. That's why I'm here. But I don't want to chase everybody away, because most of us can't do the 24-hour gaming session we used to do. If you have to go to bed at 10 because Saicred, you got to get up for work at 4 a.m. and you die and it's going to take you 6 hours to get your corpse, that's not going to be great. So it's just thinking, let's make it better, but let's still have it. So that's my thought. What do you think?
I mean, I don't die, so there's that. I'm good on there. But for first off, it's weird. I don't hate your idea, which is weird. I don't know how to respond to that. Usually as soon as I hear you speak of something, I'm like
something random, terrible. Some new thing. It's awful. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, the spirit gear. Okay. Not terrible. I'm not, again, sold on it completely, but I will say I do agree with your point of there has to be some evolution to the corpse run to death in the game. I think that in my opinion, I think that as the game continues to go through testing and you get more into the alpha and beta sessions of the world, I think this will become a very, very critical piece of feedback that's given and that's received. I think this will be a very large topic of conversation as we go forward, because to your point, I can sit here and say, man, I want it to be as hard as ever. And then that one time that I die in like the middle of BRK and I come trying to run back naked, it's like, how does that happen? How do you retrieve a corpse if you just struggled to get there as a full group with full gear and everything in your arsenal? How do you expect them to be able to get back and obtain what they lost or what's on their corpse if, again, they are now without that ability? They're coming in now at a disadvantage. So it's a balancing act. And I think that that's something that, I see people saying rogues and corpse dragging and like things like that, but that's what I'm talking about. There has to be opportunities for maybe classes to step up. There has to be opportunities for alternate ways to achieve this. There has to be opportunities for us as players to give feedback on that, because there are going to be a lot of players where you start thinking about it. as much as we want Pantheon to be this game that every single level range has people in it at all times, eventually there's going to be a point where you may be the only group of level 20s in that area at that zone. And if you happen to die, you're now either one, begging higher level players that are well beyond where you're at to come help you, or two, you're just there hanging out going, how do we do this? You know, what do we do? So I think that there's a balance. I'm hoping that we see a lot of people, like people are saying in chat, get friends that can help them out. I'm hoping that we see some challenge in corpse runs. I don't want to see it diminished, or I don't want to see it just completely this spirit run type of thing. But hey, at the end of the day, we do have to have some sort of quality of life balance here. Even if it's something to the fact where, you know, maybe players don't lose their gear when they die. Maybe that's not the fact. Maybe it's something about, I don't know. I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. Maybe it's the inventory that they have that they're losing.
Yeah.
So
that's a good idea. If you lose your inventory and your money that's on you, but you have your gear, like that's a fantastic compromise. Because let's say like you ran, ran down a long dungeon, took you 2 hours to get down through, and there's respawns behind you. At least you could fight your way back down, right? So we had some interesting conversation here. Let me read one by Joppa here, because he's referring to his P99 green. On his research run not so long ago, his group wiped on a freebie. We had to find and pay a 40+ rogue to travel all the way to Soul B and drag our corpses one by one, which is, I'm happy hearing that. Here's the thing though, like, I don't want to poo-poo that. I don't, because I'm not trying to, but those are EQ fans. And I get that a lot of us are EQ fans. Like, I get that, but we're also going to have the modern gamer here. That's just how it is. Like, right on the first FAQ page of Pantheon, it says this is going to be a modernized version of the old school, you know, feeling, right? And Joppa says, he's saying, is it the way it should be? Is that fun? It's a good story, right? So like, it's really funny. We were on a PantheonPlusYou and we were talking about these tragic stories that we went through. And when we went through them, it was miserable, right? But then when we look back at them, it was like, it's like somehow transformed into like a good memory somehow. Oh, remember that time we died and that guy, we did give him all our money and items, but he got our corpses back? That was funny. It wasn't funny when it happened.
All right. So real life scenario here. So for everybody that knows me, that know I was in the Marine Corps, I can tell you a boot camp has this effect on people. And it doesn't mean that I want to sign up for boot camp and go back to it, but I can look back at the experiences I had in that and I laugh about it now, even though it was misery then. You know, like sitting in a bucket of sand with fleas like all over you, like biting you nonstop for an hour and a half. That was misery, pure misery. Yeah. But I look back at it now and I'm like, man, can't believe we did that. That was ridiculous. You know, and we talked about people that I went through that experience with. So, you know, it has its pros and cons. And I think that struggle, I saw it actually posted here. I was about to get to that. That struggle created some of those bonds with people. I went through that experience. I went through the experience in gaming in certain like aspects of games. I went through it in real life with certain, you know, people that I know. I went through some of those struggles. And because of going through those struggles, we built friendships and bonds where now, to your point, we can go back. We start having those conversations and it's like, man, that was miserable, but do you remember that? And we talk about it for hours.
Yep.
And so I think that there's a balance there. And I'm not saying that it has to be full-blown EQ corpse runs, but...
Well, here's the thing, too. I want to make sure people... I want death to be meaningful, because it's one of the things in the bad term of the current MMOs you can play, that death isn't super meaningful to the point where people are dying just to skip running somewhere. Don't get me wrong here. Like, I'm not saying corpse runs need to go away. I'm not saying death shouldn't be punishing. I think that corpse runs add to death being punishing, but don't need to be the only thing. And I see people are saying, well, like, you know, you're going to be more careful if there's corpse runs. Sure. But when you run into that new mob you've never seen before, who's programmed to kick your ass and you have no idea how to handle it, you're going to die, because that's how it works, right? Like, that's why that mob is there. So that's what I'm talking about, is punish for death. I'm completely okay with that. But what should it be? That like, how do we innovate it to work the way it should? Keep death meaningful, but give people the opportunity to be able to fight their way back without paying some rando. to go get their corpses and wait around for hours. That's not fun. And Jop, I'm going to use your words against you. You've asked that a bunch of times, is that fun? Sitting for 2 hours trying to get someone from a different zone to come save you is not fun. It's not.
I can actually, so I've been playing a little of the Aradune server, EverQuest, and we were talking about that a minute ago, where I've stopped playing for the last few weeks because of the queues, but I won't get into that. But I can tell you that it wasn't fun the last few sessions I had where I was sitting there and I didn't have a lot of people I knew, and I was trying to find a group, and I would die, and I was trying to find people to help me get back to where I needed to be or something. And I'm spending basically the 1.5 to 2 hours of the game playing by myself, trying to figure this out. And, I'm trying to meet people, trying to become friendly with people. But to a lot of people here, like, if you don't have friends in an MMO, especially when it's very social, sometimes, hopefully, we see Pantheon a very different audience and have very different mechanics for, getting people involved with each other more so. But it's one of those things where a lot of people in a lot of games, they get established with their core group, and they just don't care about anybody else. So, I mean, that's just the reality of the nature of people nowadays. It's like if you're in a guild and you have a few friends, you play with those friends. Otherwise, for the most part, I know everybody here is going to be like, oh no, I buff and help everybody out that I run by and all this and yada, yada, yada. But if someone hits you up on a whim and is like, hey, can you spend 3 hours out of your night to come help me? There's like 9 out of 10 people that in this audience right now would say, yeah, of course. But there's also 50,000 other people that are going to be in the game. They're like, no way. They're not even close. I wouldn't give you, 2 minutes unless you're going to pay me enough to make it worth my time. So, I think there's a balance there.
There's a lot of great points you guys are making. I can't go through everything, but you guys are saying a lot of good stuff. I think the one thing I just want to make clear is death does need to be meaningful. I think we all agree on that. The next point here, and thank you for the follow there, Kaylin. Open world. So here's my next one. Oh, this is going to get me in trouble. There's a lot of things I say. Did you hear the other week I said I hate Star Wars? People were not happy with me.
I actually enjoyed that. I saw the chat light up a little bit in negative comments. It was a beautiful moment. I hope someone clipped it for us so we can have it. But
well, I don't know if you saw, someone did clip you saying that you don't die. So good luck.
Oh, well,
All right. So this here, my number 4, I got 2 more. We are going to get to the chat and we are going to get to the green room. Hoye, see you in there. Theric, Old War Goat, I see you guys in there. And if you guys want to jump into there to give us some of your concern, please do. We will get to you. I promise. So my next one is, this is going to be so rough. Open world versus instancing. And I want to tie it into camping. Okay. Yeah, Saicred just took a step back. Do you have a beer still? Do you have beer? Are you okay?
I need to get a new one, and I need to get the community in this room to have some conversation because this one can get hairy real quick. So let's go.
Okay, so hear me out. Hear me out. I love open world. It's the reason that I am here. Okay, 100%. I am here because I love the open world. I love the fact that open world makes it so people are around you, right? Like when I went and played EQ for a little bit, EQ2 for a little bit, it was cool to go into a dungeon and see a group run by you. I played EQ for a long time. I love open world. I truly, bottom of my heart, love open world. I love camping. I absolutely super love camping. Like when you can hold a spot down in a dungeon and maybe even pull 2 boss rooms at the same time because you got a good polar and you're just constantly fighting. I absolutely adore it. Those things are super important to me. Here's my issue with, and it's not that I want instance. I just am afraid of saying no instancing. I'm super afraid of just saying line in the sand, we're never going to do it. And here's why. I don't care what anybody says about EQ. I loved EQ. I played EQ. EQ's boss fights were nothing revolutionary. It was typically get as many people as you could, stand still for the most part, and kill it. And I'm sorry if that's all the boss fights are in Pantheon, which we've already seen it's not. That would bother me greatly. So why were they that way? It was because it was open world. You can't have this boss doing these crazy phase changes and this ground effect and this part of the level changes. You can't have these super in-depth boss fights with these crazy mechanics in an open world where anyone can just walk in and just screw it up just by being there by accident. Someone comes in the room and stands in the wrong spot and everybody in the group dies. Like that's stuff that is innovative within the brand new way that boss fights should be. And I don't think that that's a negative. I think if WoW did anything right, it has some of the most innovative, fun boss fights I've ever seen. And it would really be sad if we didn't get to have people in Pantheon experience these innovative boss fights, if the devs in VR weren't able to have these grandiose ideas of how to do so. Now, we've seen, like with the boss fight in Helnir Caves, or in Helnir, we've seen how like the door closed and they were able to fight. But if I'm a jerk, I could just sit inside that door waiting for a group to come in and just screw it up, right? Like I could do that if I was a rogue. I could stealth in there and just do that. So my fear is that they said it looks like you're about to crack over there. It's great. So my fear is that saying that there's no instances, I feel like can hurt really cool story moments, really innovative moments that you remember, and really crazy over the top boss fights. Now, I'm not saying that every raid should be instanced. What I'm saying is, what if you went through a raid, you had to fight your way down to like the bottom of this raid, and then you can go into an instance for like a mini boss and a big boss fight. And then the other thing too is instances allow for easy lockout. It's very easy to say like, you've been in there, you've killed that boss, you're done. Probably do it for open world as well, but it's a little easier with instance. So my only fear is that I really want these crazy in-depth 15-minute boss fights. And I just don't know how you do that in open world. So maybe you can prove me wrong in your theories there, Saicred or Chat or Japa. It's not that I don't believe you guys can't do it, but I believe that having open world as the base and then having some instance is just a smart design idea to not limit the development team. That's my idea. So Saicred, I feel like you're about to explode. Your turn. What do you got on that?
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to let you get all of that out because I feel like you need to get it off your chest, and I wanted you to set the stage so people don't like you more than they don't like me, but I like instances. So I said it. I did it. I said it. Here's the thing. I don't like instances to the degree that they've been done, but I do, to your point, think that everybody over here is taking a breath here. They're trying to recruit. I don't know what's going on. I get it. But I do truly believe that it allows design opportunities that you can't have otherwise. Not to say that you can't make a great outdoor open world experience. Absolutely. And that's been done numerous times. We get it. But I can say every fight that I've ever seen an MMO player experience that has been excruciatingly challenging and driven by precise execution of very skilled players to overcome that objective has been done in a very calculated, controlled environment, aka an instance. And I struggle to see how making that an open world experience, it adds so much as far as complexity goes into the design, in my mind at least, and maybe I'm just completely wrong, but it adds so much as far as complexity goes and challenge and hurdles that it's just like one of these, you would spend so much time and energy and resources trying to overcome some of these simple obstacles just to make it something in this open world setting, to where, if you moved it wrong or moved it to a instance, for example, then you may be able to overcome that very quickly and create much more of that content. Now, with that being said, hey, no, I appreciate it, Bronson. Like, I know I'm wrong in a lot of ways. Don't worry, guys. I get it. But I will say, instancing has been abused and taken to degrees that I don't agree with in most MMOs. And that's where I think the problem is. It's just, they've abused this system because it makes things easier. To your point, if you had 99.9% of the world which was open, but this one little caveat, this one little area here that you get to after you've struggled to get there in an open world
bottom setting. Of a dungeon, you've been in an open world dungeon for hours fighting your way down, and you get to this one fight, right? Like, is that so the argument is, and I get it. Listen, I am here because I like open world. Be very clear about that. And one of the things somebody said here, Theric, which my buddy here, but I'm gonna disagree with, instancing is not compatible with a shared world. It offers a lot, but it takes away. Okay, I disagree. At what point when you're fighting this intricate boss fight, are you like, man, I really wish there were just people standing around hanging out because I feel like I'm not part of the world? When you're fighting an epic boss, it should feel like you guys got this chance to fight this boss. Like, you don't want people hanging out around you. There's no immersion gain from people standing there like clapping for you while you're fighting, or standing in something they shouldn't have standed in so they kill you and kill your group because they were in the room. And I get that you can flag certain things and you can handle it. I get all that. And Joppa brought up, what about AOW from Velaeus? I don't remember that one. I'm going to tell you that on, but honestly, and that's fine because I'm sure EQ did have some good ones, but I could name 1,000 that can't be done in open world. And if we can name a couple here and there in EQ, that's fine. And if that's what we model after, that's fine. But like, for example, for anyone, and somebody said, to discredit, I think what I was saying, you're a WoW player, open world's the best, no instance. I'm an EQ player, I'm a WoW player. I can name MMOs for ages, right? I can sit here all day and tell you the MMOs I've played. I don't want an instanced world. I want innovative, amazing boss fights. Like, anyone who has played WoW, there's a fight called Fallen Avatar from Legion. Familiar with that, Saicred? He's a big freaking thing, and he's chained to the wall, and you're fighting him in this big room, and the precise movement of these ads is super important, and you have to stand on these certain spots. And once you get him to a certain health level, the whole ground breaks out. You fall down into this small pit. He's breaking apart pieces of the pit while you're trying to manage tanking him in a special place. He's throwing tornadoes, throwing people into the pit, instant killing them. How do you have that in an open world? How do you have that? How does the ground break in an open world?
Like I said, I don't know. I think that's why I agree with you on this. And that's what my stance is as well. I think it allows opportunities that you simply would, if you tried to put some of that in an open world, could you? Absolutely. However, the challenge of it becomes, is it worth, like, if you took 3,000 hours to put together this and make it all work and function correctly in an open world setting, when it would have taken you 1,000 hours in an instance, you could have made 3 of those encounters for people to enjoy and experience versus just one. And I'm not saying maybe it's worth it just having it as one, but I see a lot of people saying here, well, there's competition in an open world. I agree. There's competition to get to everything. That's what I was saying earlier about the PvE versus PvP mindset. People are all about, I don't want a PvP, but then as soon as you say, well, hold on, 2 groups are going for the same camp at the same time, is that fine? Oh, absolutely. That's good. That's competition. Well, PvP is competition. It's the same thing. So again, I think that, you have to look at options and opportunities that you could take advantage of in the world. The technical challenge or social challenge is what Joppa said, by the way, for you minus. So I'll say this, if I was speaking to Joppa right now, I would say, Joppa, to me, it sounds like a technical challenge as well as a social challenge. There's 2 aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I think both of them matter in that aspect. So yeah, I don't know, man. I think that I'm in the boat with you in a lot of ways on this. I hate to say it because I don't like agreeing with you. I like arguing about stuff, but it does, in my mind, it offers players not only the chance for things of lockouts and things of, at least give me the opportunity to experience something. That's one of the things. It's like, we talk about players that'll never get to raid at these top tier levels in any of these MMOs. And it's like, yeah, but in a lot of ways, they had the opportunity to experience it. And just because I have the opportunity and I choose not to, that's one thing. But it's a whole other thing when I have the desire to do something, but I never get the opportunity to do it. And so, again, I just think that it's
see, mine's not even about opportunity. I mean, I guess that it would get opportunity, but guys, like I'm saying, like right now, like I don't want 50% instance, like 10%, like some of the, like, so here's the thing. 1. Yeah. Like, yeah. And I guess even that, but like, here's the thing. So, and I don't have this on my list, but like one of the things, if you look at the top MMORPGs out there right now, and I get that Pantheon is filling a niche group. I totally understand that, but guys, don't we all want it to be really successful? Like, don't we all really hope this game's successful to the point where we play it for 10, 15, 20 years or whatever? It's around for a 20th year anniversary. I don't know what that player base has to look like for that to happen, but I think we all want that, right? So we know that we're going to have to play with people that we don't like. We know we're going to have to play with people that don't agree with us on stuff like that, right? So the thing I'm trying to say is like, think about lore. Okay, I'm going to hit you up here, Theric. I'm coming at you. Think about lore. Think about how great a lore experience can be that you've built up this battle to this enemy that has just been a thorn in your side, and you get to go in and have this extraordinary story-built phase battle where you're finally putting that enemy to rest. I mean, that's huge. That's huge to me. I think that's important. So the last one I have here, and then we're going to open it up to everybody.
Can you pick up Joppa's comment real quick?
Yeah. What is it? Okay, so Joppa says, are we assuming open world equals boring tank and spank, but instancing equals super cool engaging encounters? That may be a poor starting point. I think I'll openly admit that I don't think it means boring tank and spank. I don't. I think that you can, like, we've seen more than tank and spank in the Hellnair fight, right? Like, we've seen more than that, like the phase of like the smoke around him and the different things coming up and having to separate. No, we've seen that it can work. What I'm saying is like the really over the top stuff, like the crazy stuff. And that's why it only has to be a certain percentage of fights, in my opinion. But no, I don't think that it means that you can't do some interesting fights. I do think you're limited from doing certain things, for sure, without a doubt.
I think the biggest thing for me is there's a difference in, like, here's just what it comes down to. I love the idea of open world until I have 4 hours to play a night and I walk into the same issue every single night in and night out, which is I don't log in at 3 p.m. in the afternoon while I'm at work, so I can never experience certain content. Like, I can never experience that one particular fight that I want to so bad. I literally have to take off work to experience it and hope that I can get my other members of my guild and people to take off so they can experience it as well. That's a struggle. It's a hard thing to overcome. And if you're looking for a game to have a really good, population, which is one of the things you have on your list here, like, if you have a good population in a server, then probably you have a few guilds that are competing for content. That's just fantastic. I hope to see that. But I question how fun it is to go in night after night and basically sit there and go, well, we missed it. We weren't here at 7 p.m. We all got on at 9 tonight like usual. And guess what? They know our times. We're out of luck. How do you kind of overcome some of that? And I think there's systems that have that may be in place that could help some of that.
Yeah.
But it all comes down to, is there enough content to spread all those players out to give them all something to do? And if they don't have something to do, what's going to keep them enjoying the game? Like, what's going to keep them looking forward to being on every night in and night out? So I just think that there's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of opportunities.
Tons of challenges. And I don't have an answer.
You have to overcome.
I don't have an answer. Like, that's the thing. Like, I'm not a developer. So, like, I don't think I'm down talking VR and their capability of doing this. I'm not a developer. I don't know. Jop had a great question here. He said, question for me. Imagine the WoW encounter you described earlier, but in an open world. Assume it was technically feasible. Would that be experience? What would that experience be like? Okay, so Fallen Avatar, if it was able to be done in there, here's where I'm going to toss this back. What about it being open world makes it any better? In that fight, what benefit do I gain from open world? Other than the ability of somebody to mess it up. There's no advantage. And Theric, you've said, well, it creates more immersion and you feel like you're part of the world. In that 10-minute fight of the craziness that I'm experiencing, I am not caring about anything but the mechanics and my guild people doing the right things and the tanking and the healer healing and me jumping on a spot to stop something and running over here and hitting a button. I'm going a little crazy here, but there will never be a time in a fight like that where I would be like, hey, thank God that group was watching over there. Or, I don't like, I'm imagining, because what's been said is that there's going to be a lock on the target anyway. So they're not going to be able to help. Right.
Right.
So they're not helping. They're just there. So I would ask in reverse, and I'm not trying to not answer your question, Jabba, but I would ask in reverse is, yeah, if it worked in open world, cool. Right. I'm fine with it. Like, cause that's what I want. I want really fun, memorable boss fights. I want that. I want to, Saicred, you said it best. I want to be challenged to my skill level, like to be precise and to be organized in a way that we've seen. That's the one positive of MMORPGs, right now. There's some really good boss fights out there. take everything else away, but there's some good boss fights out there in the modern MMORPGs. Now, on the other side of that is, okay, so if you could do it in open world, that's great, but what's the added benefit that brings me? And that would be my only question. Versus
So
what
I
I
see a
would
lot
do.
of people saying, I see this comment a lot. It's called competition. Don't be scared. So I see you. I get that. And people are saying, hey, the competition means so much. Man, I get it. I get it. I really do.
But it's not going to be competition. The raid bosses are going to be, I think it's already been said, Joppa, correct me if I'm wrong, please, because I'm not trying to say something that's not right. But I believe it's already been said that it's going to be first to engage on raid targets. So it's not competition.
Well, I was actually going to go a small different way with it. And I wanted to highlight, even for all the EQ fans out there. So I know everyone probably know who Zayd is, the guild leader of Faceless. I was actually watching him stream EQ the other day. And it was funny. I caught something that he said, which was they asked him in the chat. They said, hey, did you happen to stream your world first or your server first for your level 50 in EQ? Even in EQ, not even talking raid content. This is just getting level. And he said, no, I can't stream it because the competition is so fierce and people are so ruthless that I would seriously be stream sniped and camped for hours on end while trying to pursue that world first achievement with, the most malicious attacks that you can imagine. He said, basically, people are finding ways to hack the game, and of course, old game, but hack the game so that they can continuously disrupt their progression. They have to go in different names under alternate egos that are unassociated with anything that people know them as, so that they're left alone. I don't know, but to me, just turn on PvP at that point, because you get to a point where it's like, man, it sounds like streaming issues, not the game. I get it, Theric, but the thing is, that's happening without streaming. That's just the way the world is. That's the way that people are using the world to compete against each other. They are simply going at each other's throats to have an advantage. Yeah. That's just the way people play nowadays. And that's a real weird thing.
Because Joppa just put out there, by the way, he's pushing these things because the discussion's important. Great thoughts. Listen, there's no negativity from us. You know us both. Come on. If anyone's joined this or like midstream, one of the really important points I wanted to make at the beginning of this is everybody knows me. Like, I get frustrated because people call me the White Knight of Pantheon. I obviously am 100% in on Pantheon, whether these things are in or not. But I think it's important to talk about like concerns, right? Like, what are you concerned about? Like, because I'm concerned. My biggest thing is I want as many people to play as possible with the game being what we want, right? I'm not trying to be a martyr. I'm just trying to respectfully say, like, I'm not a crafter, but it would be stupid to not have crafting in the game, right? Like, I'm never going to craft probably, but we have to have it. So I'm just asking, like, what do we need to keep the best player base we can? We don't have to get millions and millions and millions of players, although that would be super cool. As long as it's adhering to like what the game's about and what it's for and what we want, I do want to be able to bring in as many people as possible. And I don't want to chase them away with something that we could be better than. So just so you guys know, this is a conversation of what my concerns are, but it's also a conversation of my love for this game, wanting it to succeed. So just in case you guys didn't know that, please. The last topic. I love camping. 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 Are you ready to hear me say I love camping?
Lies.
I'm really afraid of current society having any of the respect that 1999 did when it came to camping.
Oh, did I jump ahead? I'm sorry. I think I jumped ahead.
What? No, I'm terrified. I'm terrified of it. So like here, I'll read you guys what I kind of wrote here. I took some notes on this. I just said, I'm fearful of, with the current internet culture of our world, gamers are not what they used to be. They're more aggressive. They're more competitive. They're less likely to be reasonable and social when there's a prize at the end of the trail. I'm not trying to knock anybody here. I think that we're very fortunate. We have a really good group of people in this community. But keep in mind, when the game launches, it's not just going to be all of us that have been following this game for 5 years. Floodgates are going to open. When EQ or other open world games existed, gamers, we were nerds, like we were talking about earlier, right? We weren't looking for an esports sponsorship back then. Or trying to be, this is where I get in trouble. You ready for this one? I have to say this line. I have to, Saicred.
Let's go.
we weren't looking for an esports sponsorship or trying to be a pretend athlete. I kid, sort of.
Are you making fun of my cyber athlete?
No, but that's fantastic that lines up. That's absolutely fantastic.
I am a cyber athlete, and I hold myself to that standard. I don't understand.
I don't know what that means. I've watched you play shooters. If you're a cyber athlete, I guess I am too. So my whole thing is it's a different time. Gamers are less patient. They're less afraid of consequences. So if that's the case, here's the thing. It can happen, right? This is fine. But my fear is back then the players policed themselves very well, right? And that it sort of worked, right? It sort of worked. That's going to go down. So what does that mean? That means that VR, to keep that, is going to have to go up, in my opinion, which means that there's going to be a lot more pressure on GMs to figure this out. And I hear this whole thing, like community matters. Listen, that's why I exist. This whole Pantheon Plus thing started on the phrase community matters. I quit WoW after 14 years and left my guild because of community matters. I believe that, truly believe that. But there's just so many bad actors out there, guys. And I'm just afraid, like what we saw in Eridune, for example, with Drac put that story out. I know you read that, Saicred, where some guild griefed him. They responded by griefing back. And the guild that originated the griefing reported them. And then they just banned all of Drac's group, who literally did almost nothing wrong except for try to fight back for their camp. They all got banned. It was pretty long, that's 7 days. Though. Sure. Yeah, that's competition. Stop. So they all got banned for 7 days. So my whole thing that I'm worried about is, like, what's the pressure going to be on VR to manage assholes? I don't know how any other way to say it. Like, that shouldn't have to be something VR has to manage, but they're going to have to. And that's my only fear, unless something is and someone said, let VR decide that. Sure. Yeah. I guess it's on them. I'm just afraid that there's a lot of people that aren't going to live up to what we were in 1999.
The gulag. I love it.
What do you think, Saicred?
I say that like I was saying in chat a minute ago, people talk about competition. And I asked the question to a lot of people that speak of this in open world settings, what's the difference between competition and griefing? What's the line? Where is it drawn? And people have different interpretations of this. Every single time you ask the question, there's a different interpretation of it. So, I hear you. It's a challenge. It's something that I think will have to be overcome at some point. But, in my opinion, it's kind of one of those things where if you create a game and you're expecting that sort of competition to occur, then you kind of just have to step back and say, hey, this is intended. It's working as intended. Fight back or don't fight at all. Yeah. And that's a tough line to go with, but that's my opinion. I mean, that's what, if I was creating an environment and I set rules up, if I made a game out in the street with a bunch of kids and I set the rules and I said, here's the rules, and people are playing within the rules, then if someone finds a dirty way to play within those rules, it's, well, hey, don't get mad about it.
That's every sport in the world, right? That's every sport in the world. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying kind of thing.
I mean, so if, like I said, I think it's one of those, like, if that's the way players want it, let them have what they want. And hey, I just don't see it. Theric said it right here. That's not the majority. I'm just going to take out of context what you said there, Theric. I don't think the majority of players truly want that. I think we have a really strong subset, and I love the community we have here.
The community we have now is not the problem. Let me be very clear about that. It's not the community we have now.
Well, when me and you were fighting over camps, I don't care if we're in a guild or not. I mean, I'm gonna have that camp, and if not, I'm gonna kick you out of the guild and take your DKP away from you, and it'll be what it is. Probably have one of my guys train you for the next 12 hours, because why not?
Well, I mean, Saicred, let's be honest. I mean, you won't even be at the keyboard. You're going to play a summoner. I mean, your pet's going to do all the work. So how would you even know what's happening? So probably an elf summoner, I'd imagine.
Seems no, like I don't go that low. I have standards. I have a line.
Chopper said, oh, snap. Plus, I sure as hell hope you don't decide to tank. We all saw how that went in Amber Fate. So.
God, okay. All right. Now we're getting somewhere. I'm
just kidding. But yeah, so my only fear again is is just I don't. It's gonna stink to have a lot of that on VR, and I just hope it. I hope as a community, I hope that the community we're building now stands up. You know, one of the things I hate in all of life, and we're gonna get to you guys in the green room. I promise you here in a minute. One of the things I hate is that a lot of the good people in life usually don't say anything, and it's that whole mentality of, oh, if you ignore it, it'll go away. It doesn't go away. look at where we're at. The good people in the community that we have now, the people who've been supporting Pantheon, you guys got to stand up. Community only matters when the right people stand up too. And if we stand up, like the community that's being built right now, and I'm not talking about just Pantheon Plus community. There's people who hate me. They're good people. Like there's people across different groups and guilds and all that stuff, right? I'm even in his guild and he hates me. But like what I'm saying is like, we just like, if community matters, then like these people, like we gotta stand up for it. But the problem is going to be is when that mega guild that came in to dominate this game, they're not going to care. They're not. And like, what do we do at that point? Right. So and it's going to be interesting to see. Again, I'm not sitting here like I could care less. I'm playing a rogue. All you guys are going to die to all this stuff and I'm going to stealth away and be okay. Right. Like that's why I'm playing a rogue. That's true story. That's why. The tanks are going to die, the healers are going to die, and I'm going to be stealth and running away. But yeah.
Well, I love that people, you know, I love that people still have the idea that people can to work together and be social and police each other. I think that to an extent there is a lot of that happens, and I love that that'll be a fact within Pantheon. But I am in the same boat. You know, people talk about reputation matter. It only matters within your group that you're in, what your reputation is.
If you run a guild, like in Saicred, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but you've made many points in the guild that we want to be the players that are representative of the right way of doing things. And you've been very clear. Yeah. You've been very clear that if people act like that and they have the Rainborn tag, they're not going to be there very long. So guilds, and I'm not trying to like promote Rainborn or say Saicred's this great leader. But what I'm saying is that if there's guilds like that, that's what it's going to take to stand up to some of those other guilds. Is there's going to have to be guilds out there that do believe in that. And if there's enough of that, we're good. But it's going to be a war, guys. Like I'm going to tell you right now, like as a content creator for Pantheon, like wait until like the big names come in and I'm a nobody, which I'm already a nobody, but wait until this game starts to hit near the date and you just have like streamers with, you know, hundreds of thousands of people coming in to talk about the game. Like, it's gonna be tough for me, right? Like, but that's what it's gonna be like for a little bit. That's how every game launch works, right? So I don't know. We'll see.
Well, let's get somebody in here to
let's
counter some of these agreements that we have.
Okay,
I don't like agreeing with you either. So
yeah, I get it. All right, so let's go ahead. Hoye, we're gonna bring you in first. I see that you're unmuted. Let's bring Hoye in and let's hear what he has to say. So Hoye, bringing you in now. Just so you know, by the way, Hoye here, Saicred, he's a Green Bay Packers fan.
Oh my goodness. You know what? Hey, so don't we have an ability to like mute one topic that they can't talk about? Is that like like the voice where they have like, we can block one person from talking about one topic?
Maybe.
So can we do that?
Maybe.
Like block
what to
PvP
see
conversation here?
I don't know. All right, Hoye. So
I mean, he's a Cowboys fan. So I mean, are you really going to talk about that?
Listen, all I'm going to say, America's team. There's a hole in our stadium, so there's a hole in our stadium, so God can watch.
The Packers are the only people that actually own the team. Just saying.
Nobody owns a team. Nobody even knows.
I literally have stock. I've got stock in. I own stock.
Well, that's a bad stock to invest in. But go ahead. What is a fear that you have?
You guys hit a lot of really good points. Everything. I had something to say about everything. Honestly, mine is just seeing how I think you already know where it's going to go. LAS, how that's going to play out. I know Saicred's probably spending an hour with me just talking about that. And I've gotten to the point where I'm a little bit more willing to try, give it a good hoorah. But, you know, I still have doubts until it actually plays out. Saicred, where do you stay? Saicred, how many hours of time? We spent, 20 plus hours talking LAS?
Easy.
You've come around a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and that's one thing too. I'm just like a lot of people in the community. I hear certain things and my first reaction is the reaction to stay with until I'm proven wrong, right? I mean, that's just the way that we go in a lot of ways. LAS is one of those things where as a player, I looked at it in two aspects. You know, I looked at it as one, I hate having the 1,000 buttons on my screen and that covering my screen, but I also hate being so limited that I can't use all my abilities. And it's like this whole balancing act where, again, it's a design choice. And if you design around it, that was kind of my whole purpose, my whole argument to begin with. It's like, if you design for it, then I think it makes sense. And after thinking through it and really diving into the details of it and my thoughts, you know, I really started looking at different abilities on the websites. I started talking to you. I started talking to Hoye, other people, bouncing ideas off. And by the time I got around to it, you know, after it's all said and done, you come up with this idea that you're like, wow, this actually sounds like a lot of fun. There's a lot of opportunity here that I wasn't expecting to have in front of me. There's a lot of things that I now have to think through and consider. So choices and decisions are really meaningful in my mind, at least. I don't know. I think that the limited action set as a whole sounds to me much, much better over time. And after thinking through it and really trying to digest what that means for me as a player, than my first initial reaction, which was don't do it.
See, I've come around to the point where I can accept and I'm okay with LAS at launch. I've gotten to it to where, you know, I can just, all right, that's what it's going to be. It's designed for it. All right, that's cool. I have two main concerns with it. One is how expansions are going to work. So what's going to happen, you know, 4 or 5 years down the road when we've had expansions, or even just the first expansion. So let's say that I've got my loadout, or, you know, whatever I've got, you know, what I normally use for this scenario or that scenario or that scenario. Then expansion comes out and there's no new abilities that I like. So that's kind of disappointing that there's not, you know, an ability that comes out that's good, that's, you know, really exciting about the expansion, or that every single expansion, then I've got 1 or 2 new abilities that are, you know, top notch. They're just really good that I've got to get rid of my other ones that I really like too. So at that point, you're just replacing abilities, and those are going to be obsolete. My other point that I was going to make is, shoot, it just slipped my mind. We'll talk about that one for a second, though.
Was it about Transmog, how it needs to be in the game?
Actually, I'm probably on your side a little bit for the most part. My only thing is I made the bunny comment earlier. I don't want bunnies in there. And, you know, so I want the talk of they're going to allow bunnies. But, you know, if they're going to make the game realistic and they're not going to put bunny suits in there, then okay. If you're going to have realistic gear, then I'm cool with that.
And you got to earn it, but that's another topic. So you brought up the expansions. That's a great point. I don't want to take the easy way out of this conversation and say expansions allow you to change a lot of things. So, like, you know, maybe that new spell you get, you don't need 2 other spells now, right? Because that's like, so that's tough. And like, if they were to expand it at all, like 2 or 3 expansions from now, I don't think anyone would be upset about that either. Like if you had a few more slots, or maybe you had special abilities that would have special slots. There's a lot you could do. So I'm not trying to like ease my way out of that concern, because it is a good concern. But like if we're at the 3rd or 4th expansion and stuff is rolling, like things are working good at that point. Like hopefully there's just, you know, that becomes a piece of the expansion.
The second thought I did think of is reading through some of the abilities. I feel like there are ones that are just simply just not going to be used because they're very specific, and you're just like, for example, the rogue has a kind of like a death from above kind of ability where you have to be above a target and then you kind of jump down and use that. Well, that is so situational. That sounds like an awesome ability. It sounds really badass, but that's so situational. Are you really going to have that on a loadout? You know, like you would have to change a loadout just to use that, I feel.
Climbing though.
Can I? Well, hold on. Can I ask you a question, Hoye? So theoretically, if Death from Above was a very, very powerful and strong ability, but let's just say a hypothetical situation here. Let's say one of my group mates has the ability to knock down an opponent. Am I not above that opponent when it's knocked down?
Yeah. Cool.
I don't know. I feel like it's situational. That's all. That's my only concern. I'm worried about the situational abilities.
And to be honest with you, it's a good point. Like if you look at any MMORPG, there's definitely a lot of situation abilities that people just don't take because it's not worth it. That could definitely be the case. So I agree. Anything else, Hoye?
I mean, there's so much. We could go on forever. It just
there's so much. What do you like? No, I'm kidding. All right. Well, Hoye, thank you for jumping in, man. And I like the point on LAS. That's one that obviously I'm a fan of. And it's a really weird way to say this. But you know what I thought of when LAS was kind of announced, other than EQ, was, and this may not be popular for people, but it's like Diablo. Like how you built your character in Diablo. Like obviously this is going to be a higher form of it, but even like mastery, like changing how the spells work and stuff like that. I'm excited for that. Yeah, and guys, if you didn't know, Basgrim will be interviewing Joppa tomorrow at 7 p.m. talking all about LAS. So yeah, check that out.
I'll have to check that out. One other thing I did think of real quick is you were talking about open world versus instancing as far as like raid mobs. You can have in-depth mechanics or whatever. EQ2 had quite a few open world open world raid mobs that had, relatively in-depth mechanics. But the way they did it is they just locked the entire encounter. So nobody from the outside could influence what's going on in that fight. So you could still have all the raid mechanics. You wouldn't have zerging. You wouldn't have heals from the outside or anything like that. If you were in that group or that raid force that attacked the raid mob, then everything was locked, no outside interference, and that way you're all right there in the world, open world. Everybody can see it, but nobody can influence the fight.
Yeah, and if they do it, that's got to be the way they go. I guess my question goes back to like the conversation Joppa said, like if you could do that in the open world, is that cool? It's cool, but I ask what the benefit is, I guess, is other than being able to do it. So if we're going to be all open world with no instances, then yeah, I agree with you. That's how it has to be. So
I do like having those big rare mobs out in the world, but the downside is that it really does suck when there's only one of those mobs because he's out there in the world, and then you can never grab them because there's always another guild that like I would love to have this opportunity to kill this big awesome looking dragon, but I can't because there's 20 guilds around them.
Yeah.
That's it.
All right, Hoye, thank you, buddy. It's been a while. Hope everything's well. Down with the Packers. Take it easy, man. Just drop him right out. Just throw Packers
that was
out.
rough, man.
You like that? Jeez. Yeah, that's how I do it. All right, let's go with Theric. We're gonna wait on you for a minute because you're usually here anyway. So we'll bring Theric in a minute. We're gonna bring in Juan. Juan, I think so. If you want to unmute your microphone and headset, we will bring you in through there. So there you go, and here they come. What's going on? Welcome to the show.
First of all, it's Joanne.
Joanne. Okay, I'm the. If you've seen any of these shows, you know I cannot pronounce names. So Joanne. Okay, got you.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I don't really actually have too many concerns about the game, but the one thing that kind of has me the most concerned is the whole perception system. And well, no. I guess I worded that wrong. Not the whole perception system. The only problem I have with it is just the way it seems that their philosophy is with the system. I don't think there's going to be enough reward for actually participating in it. Like they oftentimes compare it to like crafting or something else of that sort, but the difference between crafting or smithing or something like that is that there's a financial incentive to actually participate in those systems. So like if you get high enough level, you can make something that's high in demand, but there's not much of it, right? So you can enrich yourself off of those systems. But with something like perception, the way I see it so far is that all you really get is story. And I feel like it's that way because people are scared of being quote unquote gated behind content and things. But I actually think gating is a good thing as long as it's done correctly. So like I come from a really heavy RuneScape background. I'm sure if anyone's read the chat, I've referenced RuneScape a lot. Like RuneScape actually did a lot of things right. It's not that great anymore, but back in its golden days, they actually did a lot of things well. And one of the things was they had a skill called Dungeoneering, and it was very tedious and it was actually very hard. And a lot of people didn't want to participate in that skill. But the thing was, the rewards were so great that any player worth their salt, they didn't really have to, but it was they were doing it. Yeah.
It's interesting. It's an interesting point you bring up because this is I don't know if you saw our perception show. This is actually a big point of mine too, and I'm happy you brought it up in this forum because Saicred, I've never got to hear your opinion on this at all. I completely agree with you that a system this advanced, this cool, by the way, I think it's freaking awesome. And it's super in depth and you have all these flags and you're if you get through it, you're earning the hell out of it. I do agree there should be some kind of reward, or like you should be a gatekeeper. Like you need a perception keeper to get to this area, or to skip this portion of a boss, or maybe to have a boss fight. Saicred, what are your thoughts on that? Because I've never heard you talk on that.
Yeah, I've said it a few times in a few different arenas. I'm not a huge like quest lore guy. Pantheon is really the only lore of an MMO that I've ever taken investment in reading and trying to understand. So kudos to JN and everybody else in within VR that's working through lore and design and things like that, because to me they've made it interesting. They've made it worth my time to read it and understand it. And because of things like the perception system, it becomes much more interesting to me as a player overall. I will say though, I do agree that there are some opportunities potentially with the perception system where you may, and it may not be that you require somebody with that skill set to access a certain area, but imagine if they had insight within a certain area or about certain, I guess you could say, structures in that area that gave you some sort of knowledge and know-how of how to overcome something that figuring out by yourself would be sure luck. So I don't know. I'm curious if that type of thing can happen. I'm curious if something like that could be a part of it. If there is some sort of reason besides just more than lore for perception, then I'd love to see it. And maybe there is. Maybe there's some things that, we haven't been made aware of yet that are in the works that are just really kind of those, underlying, I didn't even know this was a case, but, you stumble across it in one of these long perception kind of journeys that you're on. And all of a sudden, it's this topic of conversation that everybody is bringing up and having a more in-depth conversation and talking about and sharing, because now you're trying to figure out, well, how did I get to this point? And that was one of the things I liked about the perception. There were so many kind of unknowns about it. I don't know if you all have that same same observation about it, but for perception, and even to me, there's a lot of mystery with it, and I love that. As a player, I think that really just drives me to find out more about it and actually dive into it more than I would otherwise.
Yeah, and you made a good point of like, don't make it necessarily be needed, but have it be an advantage. And I think that's okay. Like if you have a great keeper with you, right? Yeah, like Juan, you were just saying, like, and I'll let you talk again here for sure. Like if you have a keeper with you, why can't you save an hour by going through a secret passage in a castle? The mobs you don't have to fight your way through, because this keeper is knowledge of the world, and it fits. It's not like we're just throwing it at the wall like, hey, let's let them do this. No, like, things, so help us find things and like save us time and help us fight enemies better. Just certain things like that would be really cool. But what else are you gonna say, Juan?
Like just pivoting off of what Saicred was saying, like that just right off the bat gave me a few ideas. Like, what if there's like a drop that's like a scroll, like an ancient, just tattered scroll, and the only person who can like understand what's on that scroll is someone with high perception, and maybe it could be some sort of blueprint or some sort of instruction to give to like a crafter to craft something special, and he could sell that to that crafter for some sort of like high value. Like the thing about a kind of system like this is that the potential is very, very high, and I feel like where they're at right now, they're kind of wasting a lot of that potential on things that, quite frankly, I could just get from other sources. Like if I really want to know about the story, I could just listen to Theric. Like that's how I see it.
That's what I'm gonna be doing. No, I'm kidding. That's a great. No, you brought up a good point, and this is something I've said before. I think this system's incredible. There's not a whole lot of people that have seen the system and not liked the system. They've had concerns about the difficulty. They've had concerns about the reward. But I think that everyone who's seen the system's like, this is crazy, right? And even Joppa said last time when we were talking about this that, one of the fears is people are like, well, why would I do it if I can go read about it on the internet? And he said, well, the way this flagging system is going to work, like, it's not going to be that simple. Like all the experiences you do, what race you are, what you've killed, what you haven't killed, where your faction is, what class you are, all these different things. Did you talk to this person back in the day? Did you talk to this one? Did you kill that one? All these things are going to be flags. So it's not going to be as easy to just like look it up. And that makes me so happy, because then, like you just said, this is an incredible system. Need I say, like, chat, tell me if I'm crazy. could potentially be the system that separates Pantheon. So if it's that impactful, and that's honestly how I feel, it should have some impact on the world.
Oh, yeah. Perception is the system, I think. Like, I think this is the Pantheon patented system right here. Like, this is the selling point. Like, this is what they need to really propel themselves. And so, yeah, like I was saying, I think it needs to kind of be a main, what's the word? Like a centerpiece to the game that like holds it up in a way. Like, like going back to the whole RuneScape Dungeoneering thing. It's like, it's not something that's made for everyone. It's not something that everyone's going to want to do, but it needs to be compelling enough and rewarding enough so that people who don't want to do it end up doing it anyway. That's how you know you've designed something that's good.
If you only need one per group, at the max, like if you really wanted one, if you only needed one keeper per group, so 1 out of 6 players, or in a raid 1 out of 24, whatever they end up doing, right? That's not a big ask. Like it's not that damning. It's not going to hold that many people back. So.
Well, and the beautiful thing about it is, in my opinion, there's no downside to doing it, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's kind of one of those things where if I happen to stumble across something and I start rolling with it, then maybe it leads to something else where it's, it's adding flavor to the game. It's not taking anything away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, to me, that's one of the things that I enjoy about it so much, is the fact that it's not trying to hold my hand to make me do something. It's actually just kind of, as I'm going through this journey, I can either take an extra second of my time to kind of have this experience, and maybe even my own unique experience. Like, I could have 6 people in my group that all have a unique experience with that, based off of little things that they've done, their race, their class, different aspects of them. I mean, there's just no downside to that. So I agree. There's a lot of potential there. I think a lot of opportunities.
BattleX just said it great. Like, we talk about all these stories, right? These moments in our MO. That system can just create so many stories.
Oh yeah.
Oh, we were doing this dungeon, and right. So, Juwan, thank you for jumping in, man. I think you're first time on our show. Welcome here, and please come back, buddy. Awesome stuff. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. It's been cool.
Take it easy, man.
Have a good one.
All right, we got 2 more. We got Old War Goat, and we have, we'll end up with Theric. You ready for Old War Goat? War Goat, go ahead and unmute your mic, and we'll bring you in. There he is. Oh, he went to AFK. He might be gone. So we might have lost Old War Goat. Okay, so let's go ahead and, Theric, we're going to bring you in if you want to unmute your mic and your headphones, and Old War Goat's back. Theric, mute back up. This is the fun part of the show. It's like,
Jeez,
all right, here comes Old War Goat.
But
Old War Goat, what is up? We just the evil AFK channel gods took you away right at the worst moment there. So, what's up, man? How are you?
Yeah, oh man, that pretty good. Been sitting back and just watching what's been going on the forums and on the website as well, and I'm just sitting here thinking about stuff. When it comes to the open world and instant content is is a concern for me, because a lot of times how the instant content, like Saicred said before, has been abused extensively to the point where guild members sit in their house, instance for a dungeon, and then when they come back out, they instance back to the guild house. That is my major concern. It creates a closed loop or a closed society for everyone.
Yep.
If you want people from other guilds and other players, solo players, and to interact, make them travel to that particular raid. Make them fight their way to it. It gets to that particular raid content, then allow them to instance into it.
I didn't see that coming from you, Old War Goat. I agree, though. Yeah.
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 And then they do the fight. Maybe it allows a little extra people that are there, they're waiting to go in there. They can watch from like an observation area away from the fight, but still be able to see what's going on. See what's going on as a queue while they're waiting, so they can see what the other people might have done wrong.
Yeah, I agree.
And yeah,
you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, we talked a lot about it. I think you're right. I think that like I said, if anyone walks away from this thinking that we don't want open world, I think we're like, you said 1% Sacred, you want instance, just 1%.
1%.
Yeah. So like that means 99% is going to be right. So I think we all want that. And I agree. It's just,
But that one,
yeah.
But that 1% is players that know each other extensively from other MMOs, and they'll only play with those players. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want it to be out of context. I was saying if I was going to have an instance in the game, I would want the entire world, 99% of it, to be open world, and it to be like we were talking about earlier. To your point, you have like that particular encounter, that one single encounter could have its own unique, closed, controlled environment, which you go into to experience that.
But you have to get there.
1%. Right. You got to get there.
Still got to get there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's that travel time. And if something bad happens along the way, you might have to, go back, rethink the particular travel route you got to take to get there. Or if there's no roundabout ways, you got to go straight into the heart of the crap. That's when you got to sit there and figure out how are you going to plan each part of that up to getting to that fight, because like I've seen Final Fantasy, a prime example of instances being abused was Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible. It's the way. It's so much worse than WoW. Like people don't even know.
I used to sit in my guild when I was at in-game content.
Yeah.
I used to sit just at my guild house, just running instance after instance after instance. Yep. And once my dailies and weeklies were done, I was like, I don't know what else I could do. I really don't want to talk to anybody else.
No, I hear you. I think we're all in agreement with you there. We're good. Yeah. So I think it has to be mostly open world, but
that too, and the content too. Yes, granted, content should be accessible for everyone. Another concern of mine is that it's gated not by the game itself, but by the community. When
that's a smart way of putting it.
Are considered not as good as the status quo, he's not allowed to get in.
I disagree with. I disagree with that.
To a certain degree, but when players have bad reps for because I've seen this happen to player where the guy is a good player, solid player, knows what he's doing, knows his rotations, and everything else. But because someone doesn't like him, they give him say he's a bad player.
See, my thing though is like, you are a product of the people you play with. If the people you're playing with don't want you there and they say you're not good enough, you need to find a group of people to play with, because there's going to be people that accept you if you find the right people. Yeah, that's an argument and a hill I'll die on about like performance.
So who are you playing with, Minus?
Okay, all right, funny stuff. All right, we're getting late, so I'm going to drop you back to the green room. Thank you for jumping in, buddy. I appreciate it.
Hey, no problem, man. No problem. Take care, guys.
Take care. I'll be the rogue. I'll be the rogue that's still alive while your summoner's dead and you lost your pet, making sure we get that final backstab kill. That's the guy I'll be.
So real quick though, I wanted to highlight something. I heard a bunch of people say it, and before we get into Therics, I really wanted to just say this. I do love the idea of having some open world, massive creatures roaming around that do require something of a raid type mentality to take down. I have that. But I also have the realistic expectation that, if I fight my way, if I grab, a group, a raid, and we fight our way down to the depths of this dungeon just to find out there's nothing there night after night after night after night, it kind of becomes one of those like questions of, to your point, how fun is that? So having some like unexpected rare spawn that comes up and everybody's like, calling everybody and, hey, we're going for it. Got it. But that does sound fun to me, but I think there has to be a balance too. There has to be some balances there.
Yep. All right, so guys, we're gonna be a little longer of a show. Actually, I'm pretty proud of us, Saicred. Me and him were joking.
We're only 20 minutes over.
Yeah, it's only 20 minutes. I mean, we're gonna definitely be done before 2 hours here. So let's go ahead and bring Theric in and see what he has to say. I'm excited because he's been waiting to talk. So Theric, bringing you in now. What's up, man? How are you?
John.
Hey, I love that we're disagreeing on stuff. That's fun. We should do that more.
The whole show has been like that. It's so good to hear differing opinions, because we do have the same opinion about a lot of things, but when you get those differing opinions, it's
Yeah.
really nice to hear. So you're doing a great job.
I just want to make sure that you have a GPS, even if none of us have a GPS. Joppa, can you please make Theric a GPS, or Rangers at least, full on tracking GPS so that he can find his way to the group? That's all I'm really asking. But anyway, Theric, I'm going to give you the floor.
Whatever you do, don't nerf tracking.
Please don't nerf it. Already, Joppa said done. All right, you're good. So Theric,
Okay.
luckily you'll be able to find your way to the group. We're good.
Thank God.
So what's up, man? What are your thoughts on some of either the stuff we talked about, or do you have concerns? What do you think?
I have one, but before I get to that, I'm going to bring up Nefel wanted me to bring up his. He asked me.
All right, yeah, do it.
And so this is a post over on the forum. So he listed 5 of his concerns, and I'll list them off. So number 1 is the world will feel too small. So he's talking about, just making travel meaningful, I guess, is part of it. Number 2 is non-combat gameplay will not be meaningful or compelling. So we're going into crafting stuff there.
I think with
focus is on
perception.
crafting.
So hold on, let me stop you there, because there's something really important that I want to bring up with that. Joppa is here, and Joppa, I don't know if you can answer this. Are we going to see anything on what questing looks like? Perception's not questing, right? So we know there's not going to be NPCs with big exclamation points on their head. And we know there's going to be a lot of grinding, but one of the things that's never, ever, ever talked about, Joppa, are people going to be able to quest and not just grind? And I know it's really weird that we're saying that, but I don't know that we've ever really talked about that much. Because if there's grinding and camping, and there's perception and crafting, and there's some sort of questing, and I know people hate dailies, we're not talking about dailies, but I mean, that's a lot, right? For non-combat gameplay. Am I crazy? Maybe not.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot. I mean, I think that's sort of what he's getting at as well. Yeah. Just keeping that
Saicred's
other side
just
of the
sitting
world.
there smiling. I love it. He's got something. He's got something.
No, I think it's a good conversation is all.
All right, go ahead, Theric. What else?
Okay, so Nefel's number 3rd one was competition will turn the community toxic. His 4th one was challenges will be about numbers rather than player skill. And then his last one was meaningful choices will be an illusion. So, there's a lot to dig into on all those. Like, definitely a lot to talk about there, but
so the 4th one, read the 4th one more time. So I don't get it.
Challenges will be about numbers rather than player skill.
Every MMO is about numbers. Anything that anybody has done that is not about numbers, you are clouding your perception of it. No pun intended. These games are number based. Everything in the background is number based. D&D is number based. If I do 10 damage and you do 15, you do more damage than me. Whether we know that or not, it's happening. If the game has tools to help you, like damage meters and logs, then more people will have access to those numbers. If the game does not have them in there, then the people who are mathematicians and programmers and log readers are going to have an advantage over everybody else. So that's kind of my take there. No problem, Nefal. So my only issue with that is I think anyone who thinks they've ever played an MMO that isn't based on numbers is lying to themselves, because that's what the games are based on. Is that too hard of a take, Saicred, or?
Isn't every game based on numbers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll just read what he says here, because I'm not defending his point.
No.
It's
good.
I don't
it's
know
good.
it as well, but he
Yeah.
does have more written below it. So I'll just read something to sort of back up the point a little bit. He says, no one wants a game where you have to be able to react within 50 milliseconds in order to beat a fight. However, when the system is set up so that you can brute force things through sheer numbers, whether we're talking about damage output or the number of players, then that's bad.
Number of players is bad. Number of players is bad. If you can just take 50 people to a fight that's supposed to be 25, that's bad. But
right. And then he just finishes it by saying challenge shouldn't be something you can beat with just a rotation or a spreadsheet if we want the game to stay fun. So
that's and see, that's where you have to have systems and things in place that can alter the numbers. You have to you have the equation, right? Everyone has the equation, but if the equation remains the same throughout the entire encounter, then okay, it is what it is. But you add, points where that equation is an if and or statement. It's an again,
Cool.
you're going in different directions. And that's where players have to make the decision. They have to prepare for it. They have to plan for it the best they can. And they have to be able to overcome that. That's where I was talking about earlier, even when you talked about like different, aspects of PvP and stuff, where I like to see skill be the determining factor versus just a number. If I'm a level 25 and you're a level 50 and we're facing each other, well, numbers tell me that I'm probably going to die. Just doesn't matter how, skilled I am. But if the numbers there, are the same, but based off of how we use them, it changes that. So my skill, my preparation, my anticipation of things, matter in any encounter or any PvP or PvE environment. I just think that it adds a lot of variance to the mix there. And the more you can add there, the better feel it has for a player. The more engaged they feel like during the encounter, whether it's not just a numbers game of, okay, yeah, if I hit this button every 5 seconds, I'm good.
There's a really easy way around it. There's a real easy way around it. Mechanics in a boss fight. There's boss fights in games that you kill by completing a puzzle while you're just surviving. That's not going to be about damage numbers. That's going to be about positioning and understanding and roles that you play. Like being in the right place at the right time, huddling up and doing this or that. There's times when you're gonna like tank and spank, right? Tank and spank is gonna be number based. Like if you have a rogue who does 5k damage and you have a rogue who does 10k damage, that 10k damage rogue is better than you in tank and spank. But outside of that, like really mechanical heavy fights, like movement is gonna be more important than your rotation and being in the right place so you can do your rotation. So I guess it ties into it a little bit. But I think when you're heavy mechanics, you won't have to worry as much about that.
I think those are good points. I like the way you said, Saicred, about the variance and changing it up, giving more, making it. It's always going to be about the numbers. You're right at the core of it, but then you add in those variations, and it just opens up that door for skill and for ingenuity for the player, right?
Nefel, awesome stuff, man. Thank you. Good conversation points. So Theric, what about you?
About number one?
Yeah.
Did he say the world was too small? That was one of the concerns?
Number one was the world will feel too small.
Gotcha. Okay. I don't personally have that concern, but I thought that it stuck out to me. So I wanted to make sure I caught that. Okay.
Yeah, and remember, Joppa confirmed no flying mounts, so you're going to have to, at the worst case scenario, have a semi-fast horse, or something. So you're going to have to travel. Now, we will have teleporting classes.
Save a horse rod rogue.
You wish. Yeah, you wish. In your dreams. All right. Hey, Saicred, hold this rope. Okay. So
Don't climb the rope, Saicred. Don't climb the rope.
All right, Theric. So what's yours?
So mine. Somebody brought it up in chat earlier. Anxiety 666 said, it's when you first learned about Pantheon and you read the website, you read the vision, you read the tenets, what you fell in love with, the magic that sort of had on you and what inspired you to follow this game so closely. My concern is the same as theirs, is that there's so much influence, there's so much talk, there's so much, pressure to not ignore ideas or adopt ideas, but to stay true to their vision and to not drift from that vision. I think I worry about, because we're our own worst enemy sometimes. We're so passionate and we're so talky, we just can't stop, chatting about this game. I really worry that they just feel the pressure to maybe go along with some of the things. And at the core of the game, they're artists, an artist needs to have their vision and they need to be able to see it and stay true to that vision. And that's what I want. And I think that again, it's not a huge concern, but it is probably the biggest concern I have. So
yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. Like I do a show where I'm very opinionated, and you guys, I bring people on to have opinions and various opinions. You guys know, if you've watched the show, like I'm not here to have an echo chamber at all. Like I'm here to have you guys give your points. Let's talk about it, right? So it is interesting because, and I've said this many times, is I do fear that what hurts modern gaming, and again, this can get me in trouble, is that developers are often at the whim of gamers sometimes, with the influence of social media. And we see that across our culture incredibly right now. Especially in a game that is supported from crowdfunding, there's a lot of entitlement. Like There's people in this chat, and there's nothing wrong with this, so please don't think I'm calling you out in a negative way. But there's people in this chat that see donating to Pantheon as an investment. There's people who donate to Pantheon and see it as a chance to play the game early. There's people like me who donate just to donate, and that's it. Everything else is, I just want the game to succeed. I don't expect a return on my investment. I'm not owed anything. And there's a lot of people like me, and there's a lot of people like those other people, and that's not an issue. Like, whatever, like, have your opinion. You spent your money. It's your money to spend, and you're going to want out of it what you want when you spend it. That's fine. But the thing is it is rough when you are crowdfunded and the social media atmosphere is so strong. And there's a lot, let's be honest, like, this game has a lot on it. There's a lot of pressure on this team. Yeah. It's a very small team. It is very difficult to have so many people voicing their opinions. I do hope they're headstrong. I do think they are headstrong. I really do. I think, and I'm not just saying this because he's here. I've said it before, Joppa. I trust in Joppa. I trust in Convo. I trust in the guys I've talked to and the people that are working on that game. I truly do. I just donated up to the $1,000 mark because I still believe, right? But it is tough. It's very hard. It's the thing I envy least is that they're going to have to make decisions that are not going to make people happy, and that's okay because most of those people are still going to play. So, yeah. What do you think, Saicred? What do you think, Saicred?
Sorry, I was reading Hoya's comment. Love it.
Hey, wait. Who had the first Joppa interview? Theric, can you look that up for me? When did we interview Joppa on PantheonPlusYou? I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Baz, I love you. Baz, I love you to death. I love you.
About a few years, but we'll go there next time.
Nobody was following Pantheon. No, I'm kidding. I'm joking. I love Baz to death. Trust me, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Baz. So I'm just joking.
Yeah. No. I will say yes. You know what? I'll just say it like this. I've gotten a chance and opportunity to get to know a lot of the people on the team in a very unique way over the course of my time. And I will say that as a fan, I've been here, in the community since 2016. I've been avid in what I've done within the community and for the community as well. But I will say I've never been more faithful and more excited about what is coming for Pantheon. I've never been more confident in the team that we have that is creating the game Pantheon. And I look forward to seeing and hearing, as much as I can every time I get a chance, because ultimately, I'm just a big fan as everybody else. I love the fact that we can come together for a game like this that we really ultimately know very little about overall and still be so excited about it. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of pressure on this team, but again, I've never been more confident in this team's ability to produce the environment and the game that we ultimately want. And there's maybe certain aspects of it that I'm agreeing with both of you that we think we don't want or that we don't want. Yeah. That may be introduced and
protect us from ourselves.
We have to be okay with that. I mean, me and you talked about it before, Minus. I talked with everybody else. I've played games for years that I've complained about every single night, and yet I log into it every night, and it's like, why am I logging into this game? It's like, well, there's nothing better. Okay, great. Why is there nothing better? Well, because 98% of this game I love, and this 2% I hate, but I'm complaining about the 2% every night, and it's like, yeah, but look at the 98% that you love and you play every night. So, I just think to your point, expectations of our own are really critical. We have to be aware and we have to be, confident that this team
we got to support each other. It's funny because even though we have a lot of different opinions, we all want the same thing. We do. At the end of the day, we just want to step foot in Terminus and want to go on our adventure. And those adventures are going to be different. So...
Yep. It's like Baz said right off the hop, trust in Pantheon, right? And we do have to have trust, and I do, and it's a long road, but we'll get there. So
yeah, no matter what I do, there's gonna be elves. I'm just gonna have to live with it. We're gonna have elves in Pantheon, and
not as many as there might have been before people knew about your dislike for elves. But there will be elves.
Well, here's an elf ear for a bunch of you guys in chat. There's the new emote that we have. It's a severed elf ear. Well, Theric, thank you for jumping in. Chat, you guys have been freaking incredible tonight. Chat has been through the roof. I apologize. I didn't read more of what you guys are saying here. You guys are killing it. I thank you for that. But it will be on the on-demand video. It'll be there live for people to check out and read what you guys are talking about while people watch or check it out in the future. So it's awesome. I absolutely thank you guys for being incredible. And Joppa, thank you for stopping by. I really do appreciate that. Baz, I saw you up there. Battle Axe. Thank you guys who always are here to support us. And hopefully we do the same for you. Sacred, not bad. 2 hours. Not bad.
I'm proud of myself. Not you, but myself.
Yeah.
I was the one keeping time. So, you know.
Sacred, really awesome to finally have you on, man. It was a good time, man. We do this off camera quite a bit. It was fun to do it on camera.
Absolutely. Yeah,
and for all of those, for all of those who caught the show late, keep something in mind. We're talking about our concerns for Pantheon, but I hope it's been abundantly clear that all of us are super excited for the game. And it's okay to have some concerns. It's okay to question some things. It's okay to kind of try to figure it out, right? So guys, at the end of the day, the big thing is we all want to step foot into Terminus. We love the community we have. Thank you guys for all the support. And we'll see you guys again next week, which I think is the dev stream. They never announced it till the day before, but I think dev stream next week, maybe. Thank you guys. Have a great night.